Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Wow. Wow. I've got an interesting conversation for you. Josh Sawyer, for those who don't know, has his own YouTube channel. I will link his name in the title for this video. So if you haven't already subscribed, you can easily click his name and subscribe to his channel. I highly recommend it. He doesn't post as regularly as an actual content creator like me or Mortismal Gaming, but when he does post, it's always very interesting, and you can't really predict what he's going to post about. Recently, he did a Q&A on his channel, and during that conversation, he talked a little bit about the potential of Pillars of Eternity 3, specifically in comparison to Baldur's Gate 3. And I think the comments that came out of that discussion, very interesting, but in a way that some of you might find rather depressing. Let's go ahead and get into it. So there are two questions that really relate to what I want to talk about, but the video itself is 30 minutes. He talks about a range of topics. So again, I recommend you go ahead and check it out, and I will leave a link in the description so you can do that. The first question asks, has there been discussions at Obsidian about Baldur's Gate 3 and potentially a game they could do that would kind of mirror that success, right? Josh Sawyer says, yes, of course, considering how phenomenal Baldur's Gate 3 has been, all the awards, all the money, all the publicity, etc. Of course, there's been discussions at Obsidian about, hey, how can we try to do something similar? But there are a couple of obstacles, and one of the main obstacles is the amount of money required to make a game like this. So he specifically mentions the character models, the cinematics, all of these things that not only require a bunch of money, but also require a ton of time in order for you to get them done right. And he doesn't directly say that Obsidian is not in a position to invest in one game in that manner, but his look, his affect, it kind of gives off that, you know, can Obsidian really do this? It doesn't seem like he portrays a whole lot of confidence about the possibility of that. But then he also makes it a little bit more personal and says, you know, when you look at the reception of Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, and then compare that to the reception to Baldur's Gate 3, he says flat out that he doesn't believe he has the pulse of the audience who purchased Baldur's Gate 3.
And honestly, after Deadfire, I don't really feel like looking at Deadfire and how it was received and looking at BG3 and how it was received, I feel like I don't have the pulse of that audience, even if I ever did. So whether I did 20 years ago or whether I do now, I don't think I got it now. Things that they like and don't like mechanically, story-wise, things like that. Or I do get it and it's not, I don't dig it.
Whoa, that's a fascinating admission. I mean, as far as like self-awareness, it was really interesting to see him state that so openly, that essentially he feels like, I don't understand that broad audience which was willing to purchase Baldur's Gate 3. And because I don't really understand them, I don't have confidence that I know how to appeal to them. And consequently, I don't have confidence that I'm the guy to recreate the success of Baldur's Gate 3, even if you gave me a bucket load of money and asked me to do it. Interesting. Very interesting. But it gets even more interesting when you get to the next question, which asks, what aspect of creating RPGs do you feel like you're weakest at? And Josh Sawyer makes it absolutely clear he believes he's not very good at creating romances.
The fantasy audience and what they enjoy in a romance is not generally what I enjoy in romances. And yeah, like I'm out of step with that. And it's hard for me to sort of get it. And the things that I do get, I'm like, I get it. I don't like it. If I were to make romances in a game that were done in a way that I find appealing, would an audience enjoy that, or would they really actually even hate it more than romances not being in the game.
Wow, yet again, another interesting response. Now, what I found so fascinating about this is that it calls back to multiple things that we've talked about here on the channel. We've talked several times about how Obsidian doesn't really do romances all that well. Fallout New Vegas, they did a good job with that. I enjoyed the romances very much there. Knights of the Republic 2, I also definitely enjoyed the romances there. But both of those are their older games. When you look at their newer games, Pillars of Eternity, no romance. Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, poor romances. It was not done well at all. Tyranny, no romances. Outer Worlds, no romances. Outer Worlds 2, I've heard nothing about them doing romances for that game, and it makes me feel like it's probably going to be similar to Outer Worlds, where romances are not available. Avowed, they've already confirmed no romances will be available. And so Obsidian does not have a good track record of being able to deliver quality romances in their games. And I have told you all time and time and time again that in order to properly market your game to a broad audience, you need to have romances in it, and they need to be good. I have stressed romances so many times, and I've seen so many people in the community try to push back and say, no, you don't, or romances aren't even necessary, blah, 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 blah. But here you see Josh Sawyer saying he believes that the romances were key to Baldur's Gate 3's success. And he's right. He's 100% right. The romances, the way they were advertised, did so much to provide that game with free marketing. People just talking about the different options or the different romantic scenes that they had already been able to see. People just posting those scenes online did so much to generate interest in Baldur's Gate 3. If you are serious about trying to recreate Baldur's Gate 3's success, I just don't see how you do it without multiple quality romances that people can easily make content for to put on social media and show the world how amazing this game is in that way. And Josh Sawyer is basically saying, I don't believe I could deliver that type of content. Even more importantly, if you listen to what he's saying, it basically seems like he believes the way Baldur's Gate 3 handles romances isn't something that agrees with him as a designer. It doesn't agree with his spirit. Even if he understood how to deliver that content, he wouldn't want to. It doesn't feel true to him. And so it just reinforces, it really seems like Josh Sawyer is saying, I am not the guy to recreate a game that has the level of success of Baldur's Gate 3, or at least not in the way that Baldur's Gate 3 did it, which is incredible, right? That's an incredible admission. And it also calls into question, how does Pillars of Eternity 3 get made? My hope has always been that if Avowed does well, Obsidian will see that as an indication that it's worth them investing in a Pillars of Eternity 3. But I have to admit, that's not necessarily like a one-to-one connection, right? They could easily just say, well, no, Avowed did very, very well, and that means we should just continue to focus on action, first-person games that are similar to Elder Scroll, and that's where the real audience is. Because, you know, they're not saying this directly, but when I look at Josh Sawyer, and when I listen to him talk about Deadfire, when I listen to other Obsidian staff talk about Deadfire, to me, they sound hurt. They sound deeply, deeply hurt that that game did not have the level of financial success that they're hoping for. And I'm not sure what it would take to convince them that there is a large enough audience for the original Pillars of Eternity series for it to be worthwhile that they make that third game. So yeah, that's the video. I felt like you all would be really interested in those comments. I would definitely love to hear your perspective and your feedback regarding the discussion. Again, I highly recommend that you subscribe to Sawyer's channel and that you check out the video for yourself. And let me know down below, do you feel like Pillars of Eternity 3 will be made? Do you disagree with Sawyer's perspective and feel like maybe he is the man to recreate a game on the level of BG3, and why? And do you disagree that maybe romance isn't critical and there are specific reasons or specific ways that a game could market itself to a broad non-CRPG audience and pull them in even if there were no romances? Definitely, as always, want to hear you all's thoughts. Looking forward to the feedback, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.